Well, welcome to Unmasked, the CEO Files. I'm with my new friend, Rich. Is it Rudy or Ruddy? How do I pronounce that properly?
Rudy, like the movie, like Notre Dame.
Look at that, Notre Dame. I
Oh,
got
look
the
at that.
cap right there. It's perfect. That's awesome. That's starting us out in a very lovely way. But your last name, Richart with a T? Tell me about that story. Does that mess people up sometimes?
Oh yeah, all the time, every day. So there's not a day that doesn't go by. So my friends actually, the nickname is Chart. But when I go and try and meet people and I say Chart, they're like, "Wait, what's your name? Shark, like the animal?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, no." So
That's good.
yes,
You know,
messy,
it's always a great conversation starter, isn't it? With right?
always.
Which it is for us as well. Listen, I'm really excited to have you on. You've had a lot of great experience in business that I think we're going to be able to share with our audience today, both on the leadership side and the strategy side. So I'm very excited to talk to you about that. But let's begin in YPO fashion with an icebreaker. Ready for this one?
Let's
If
do
you
it.
must know one thing about me, you must know this.
That I take a deep interest in things other people are doing, even if it's completely maybe irrelevant to what my core purpose is or my business is. They're telling me they're in XYZ business, healthcare or something. I still take a deep interest in wanting to understand, and it's just a thirsty knack for knowledge and learning. When I was a kid, I would fall in love with the encyclopedia discs on the computers, and I would run through them and want to learn everything about it. Then obviously Wikipedia was a godsend of just being able to learn everything. And then now obviously with ChatGPT and LLMs, it's just taking it to a new level of being able to learn the most random things that you can think of that I will just soak in, and that's something that I really have a deep love and appreciation for is just learning.
Well, you're making me feel old now because encyclopedia discs, I had the actual encyclopedias, dude. They're big, the big ones at the time.
We have Britannicas in my house too, so a few of them.
Listen, you've had a lot of great experiences in building businesses. Tell me the backstory, and let's just kind of start there, and then we'll work our way through the story, and we'll get to the work you're doing. And by the way, everybody, you see Captain underneath that says compliance. That's the name of his current business, which we'll talk about. He doesn't call himself the captain. Actually, he does call himself the captain, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So, Rich, why don't you
The
tell me a little bit about the backstory, please?
Yeah, the captain here speaking. So I like to say you never know where you're going to end up in life. So if you were speaking to somebody 30 years ago and you said, I'm going to be a podcaster, I'm going to be a businessman who drives business through a podcast, they would have said, what the heck is a podcast, right?
Exactly.
So th things continue to evolve, and the jobs that exist today are not things that even existed or even had the possibility of existing when I was born, right? The internet was not a thing, not open to the public. So I started my career actually initially as a hedge fund
Oh,
and was paying my dues, and it was right during the financial crisis. It was right after Lehman Brothers collapsed, and in my mind, I had a plan to go work in wealth management or be in the investment banking community and work my way up to a Goldman Sachs type of company. Um, and had met somebody from Lehman Brothers who came down to my college and spoke, and we had good rapport, and we had stayed in touch. And then Lehman Brothers obviously collapsed in September 2008, and I met with my mentor, and essentially he pointed me in the direction of reaching out to friends, family, alumni contacts, and anybody you can, and see about taking a position as an intern and work for free and pay your dues because you're still in college and you can take that angle. But when you graduate, you're competing with everybody else who needs a job. So
yeah.
my advice to those listening is like, don't be afraid to take an unpaid or a low paid internship position if it's going to get your foot in the door and learn. So I did that for what I thought was going to be a job that I'd be working in finance and hedge fund. But when I got in touch with the hedge fund manager, he said, I'm actually putting money into a startup, and I'd like for you to pay your dues and work on that, and we'll see where things end up. So that's where I ended up learning my digital marketing skills,
Hmm.
which then I parlayed into one business into another, which started with a reputation repair and data privacy removal business. And because of that, that's led the way for me to invest in numerous other ventures, have a few exits, and then ultimately where I am today, which is in a data privacy B2B software company that is what I believe has the biggest and best potential. And yeah, so I started off from a phone call to a childhood friend and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a position," and thought I'd be in finance. I ended up being an entrepreneur.
I love it. So, what do you think that mentor saw in you to pull you out of the lineup for the financial side and move into a startup? What was it about that he saw?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I did eventually get a job on the finance side because I worked really hard and ended up being better as an entrepreneur and business person than I was as a trader. Now there were months where we ran some trading strategies that were profitable, and could have been scalable, but it just didn't fit with the investment thesis of the fund. And the fund ultimately pivoted to being a muni bond fund, essentially flipping municipal bonds.
Okay.
And it wasn't anything, it wasn't fun, it wasn't exciting, it wasn't innovative. And it just it wasn't cut for me. And at the end of February 2011, now he sat me down and said some butterflies are meant to spread their wings and fly and not be locked up in a cage. It was either butterfly or a bird. And
Both
he said,
good metaphors. That's
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. But the metaphor was like I was being held back, and I shouldn't stay there, and I had bigger and better things that I could go on and do. And ultimately, that's what happened.
Did you always feel compelled to be an entrepreneur? Like you said at the beginning, sometimes things are accidental. Was this accidental for you, or was it an, unmet itch that you had somewhere inside you?
I think it was an unmet itch, or really is. So I was listening to James Dyson was on an
Hmm.
interview the other day, and he said he struggled as a child. His father died when he was young, and he always kind of had that living on the edge sort of mentality. I feel like there's some similarities that I have there, with my father passing away when I was young, and
Got it.
kind of living on the edges and working really hard to bring in money to pay for things, even at a young age. So I started actually when I was 14. I worked at a calling card place punching out calling cards. And I remember trying to calculate, how many calling cards and how many hours do I have to punch to, be able to
Interesting.
afford this new t-shirt from Abercrombie and Fitch and XYZ, to get there. And then I've always worked my way up the ladder, so to speak. So from there, we worked at a place that paid me $2 more an hour. And then I
Got
got
it.
a job at a restaurant in town that paid me another uh, essentially $6 more an hour probably was came out to. So just continued always looking for the next best thing and working my way up to continuously improve. And now I feel like that's translated a lot in business too, where I've started with one business. I said, okay, I've capped out here. Let's go figure out the next thing I can do and build on this. And then now I'm at a place where I'm in something that has what I believe is a multi-billion-dollar sort of potential. So now let's build this up as big as it can go and have fun along the ride. But always kind of just I have that grit and determination, and like I said, endless curiosity of things, and I've researched a lot of different things and landed on privacy.
Question for you, if you don't mind answering about your dad. How old were you when your dad passed?
Yeah, I was 5 years old.
Okay, so you don't have a lot of memory of your dad, or do you have good memories of your dad?
So old friends used to say I have a memory like an elephant. So I don't know if that's
Oh,
related or not, but no, I definitely have fond memories. Um, and and it's wild because my daughter will be 5 next year, and I think, oh wow, that's like
wow.
similar. And I ask her,
Wild.
like, I've taken her to Australia and Singapore and Hong Kong, and I'm like, do you remember these things? And she'll say yes, and then I show pictures. Oh, I don't remember this. So.
That's right.
Uh, but yeah, I tend to have a pretty strong memory on in things.
That's amazing because it's funny, I talk to a lot of leaders, and sometimes losing a parent early is a propelling factor. As painful as it is, it
Mhm.
propels a lot of leaders to do great things because they don't have the support network. Did you find that that was something that propelled you, or did you never think about it in any ways?
I didn't think about it as a child now, as a child, but maybe more so now, especially after
Yeah,
listening to other founders who have found success, and part of it is because of some sort of tragedy when they
yeah,
were young, and it was kind of ingrained. And my mom always, shared almost like a superhero sort of theme of, your father
that's
did this, he was this and that. So that sort of motivation, I think, it was intrinsically there from
yeah.
from an early get-go.
It's so nice that your mom kept him alive in your eyes, and that's beautiful, right? At the end of the day, I mean, we don't know what we have in the future, but that impact is really lasting, and that's good that your mom did that for you. So when I listen to you and you start talking about business, you light up like a Christmas tree. Why is building and scaling business so important to you, Rich?
Yeah, I think it's just fun, right? It's it's the excitement is just building something from the ground up. I have a friend, successful entrepreneur, has a company doing 140 million a year, and he'll call me about the most random things, like a charcuterie board business, for example. And he says, Chart, you're one of the only people I know that would actually be able to build these kind of businesses. I can't call on my other friends. Like you're the only one. And
That's
he's
great.
connected with some of the most famous people in in the country, and he calls me, to talk about some of these ideas. So I don't know. I think it's just an intrinsic interest in. It goes back to the curiosity, right? Well,
Yeah,
here's how you put it. Here's the start. Here's how I research things, and just kind of that deep dive to say, okay, here's why this would work or not work. So that's, I guess, where the excitement
that's
comes. Is
cool.
just 'cause it's exciting. It's fun for me, right? Some people, their fun is going to the movies. Mine is, building things.
I love it. Now, you shared with me that you've had a really successful exit and you've had some that didn't work as well. What were the lessons from the things that didn't work well, and what were the lessons from the exit?
Yeah, let's see. So things that didn't work well. You never know when the right opportunity is there. So it's easy to connect the dots looking back, but it's impossible to connect them looking forward.
Yeah.
For example, I had a 3D printing eyewear business. So
Okay.
in Silicon Valley with some friends in 2012, we started the first consumer grade eyewear based on 3D printing processes.
Wow.
So the great thing about it was you can actually create glasses that would fit the metrics of your face. So it would know the bridge, your temples, everything like that. Um, so that was a really fun and exciting time building something that was getting a ton of press and everything, and we were getting a lot of interest from investors and things like that, and ultimately just kind of decided not to go the investment route, to try and build something bigger because we were distracted with other things, right? It was nobody's full-time job. So I think one of the lessons is, like, if you're going to be into something, like, go all in on it. Like, if it's got that potential, that's my lesson there from that business. And then on the exit front, actually, somebody from YPO was nice enough to share. There's a Yale University case study on
Mhm.
founders who have exited and what it's like for them post exit. And it's interesting when you think about it. When you have a business, you're needed every day, right? People are calling
Mhm.
you, asking questions. You're doing social events around it. That's your life. You sell it, all of a sudden you're not needed anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's like losing a family member, right? It's like
Yeah.
losing an pet. It's not there anymore, and it's not your home. You don't have the say anymore. So that's a really profound and interesting concept that I didn't pick up on. Even because I'm a workaholic, even when I first sold the reputation business, the first few weeks I was still adamantly working and doing and hustling, and somebody's like had to stop me and say, "Hey, like this isn't your baby anymore. You gotta, start working on, something else," which I had the privacy business, starting, but was still focusing on keeping the business going and keeping it strong. So it's interesting because you lose that kind of sense of purpose and you have to find a new one. And
Yeah.
also you lose that cash flow, right? So I mean, I have the great cash flow every single week coming in, and all of a sudden you got to rebuild something from scratch. So you also kind of have that scarcity mindset that I talked about, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
living on the edge and you're like, all right, now every dollar is so important with what you spend and everything. Not to say I didn't take a month-long trip to Asia and Australia during that. But even then, I'm like, all right, I was interviewing people saying, okay, I don't have time to spare. I got to get going on this. So that's definitely something anybody who's having an exit is like, I recommend, and reach out to me if you want a copy of the Yale case study. But it's very interesting to read. And that perspective, I felt like I lived a lot of it. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
exactly how I felt on a lot of it. And it does say you're supposed to wait 6 months before you do anything. I was already moving and doing something because I didn't want to wait. But even if you're moving and you're doing something, any new business is going to take a good bit to actually really start and get off the ground. So.
And you were young when you exited, relatively speaking, right? So that's also a lot of exits happen to people in their 50s. So then they got a decision, do I slow down, or do I keep running? And in your case, it really wasn't an option for you, right? You had to keep running based on who you are, right?
I had to keep it running. I mean, I had exits smaller in my 20s and 30s. So the next big exit will be in my 40s, and then we'll see. Just keep going.
I love it.
So
I love it. So let's talk a little bit before we dive into Captain Compliance and a little bit about YPO. What when you had the online reputation business, tell me about where the idea came from and talk about how you scaled it. Just give us was there investment? You know, how did you scale the people, the technology, that kind of stuff? Be great to understand that.
yeah, so that's a really interesting kind of background and story on that. So, um, met a friend, went to college with him at Florida Atlantic University, and I was doing. Remember, I mentioned I was working at the hedge fund, but was paying my dues and building up a startup for them. And when I was doing that, a friend saw I was doing really well and had my own skill sets and said, "Hey, I'm starting a website for like the current day version of LastPass or 1Password,
Yeah, one
and was
password. Yeah, yeah.
asking me for my help, and I was kind enough to kind of help pro bono. Wasn't asking for anything. Was just glad to help and learn. Um, and while that was happening, he said we should start something and start like an SEO company. You're really good at this, and I was like, no, I don't have time. I'm working from 7:30 in the morning to sometimes 6:37 at night. I don't have time for anything else. So ended up posting an ad on Craigslist, just saying, okay, I'll test out, if there's a market for this. And 2 months go by and nothing. And then all of a sudden, 2 months later, my phone is blowing up and ringing and ringing and ringing at work, and I'm like, I can't answer. I'm at work. I'm like, what's up? It's like, well, we have our first client, but I have no idea what to say. I don't know any of this. So it was kind of accidental. So I ended up meeting with the client, showed them the work that I was doing for the startup at the time and how I was driving traffic and built the website and everything. Um, and from there, we got our first client, and then we were toying with different ideas. One was like a Facebook, you could buy wishes, is what it was. So we looked at, do we want to start a service where we sell Facebook wishes and we do some Facebook marketing? Ultimately, decided not to go with that, and Facebook wishes, I think, was closed about a year or so later. So, but the other idea was there was a company called Reputation Defender who just
Mm-hmm.
raised like $25 million round.
Mm-hmm.
And we said we could start something like this, and they'll think we're big. We'll be called profile defenders, and they might confuse us with reputation defender. And that's how it ultimately kind of got started, kind of by accident. Had the first two clients from referrals, and then I did my job as building up the site and SEO and traffic, and started with only $500, and then yeah, that was the first client was paying in February, March of 2011, and by December we were already at about 90,000 a month.
Nice.
So it got off to the races fairly fast, given the time and the offerings. And yeah, and that's kind of how it started. So completely by accident, wasn't planned. Um, just like if we were talking to somebody 30 years
Interesting.
before that, we said, "Hey, reputation repair online." They would say, What's it mean when you say online?" And reputation repair, right? Because back in the day, people would
Yeah.
say there might be a bad article in the newspaper, but then it'd be the headline that day, and then it was gone. The
Yeah.
internet's written in permanent ink, so it was a different kind of ball game and different opportunity that again didn't exist years prior.
You have any good stories about that you can share around some really bad stuff that people had to get buried?
Yeah, I definitely have some interesting ones. Roman Polanski, the
Yeah.
famous
Yeah. Oh,
director.
yeah.
There was a gentleman, Howard Bragman, the late Howard Bragman, since passed away, but Howard was a famous PR person
Yeah.
out of Hollywood. And Howard and I were grabbing lunch, and he was like, my friend used to be his personal trainer, and he said he wanted to meet with me and said, I have some clients that might be a good fit. That you could help. We're unable to help them at Reputation Defender. We can't figure out how to do it. And kind of became the Ray Donovan of the reputation industry. We would
Wow.
come up with creative ways to solve problems that others couldn't do. And Roman Polanski was an interesting one. Jeff Berg, a famous Hollywood agent, reached out and said, "Hey, we definitely need help." I got to go to LA and meet Jeff. Actually, at a beautiful office. Steven Seagal reached out before, so we had some
Wow.
celebrities and everything. So definitely some interesting celebrity stories. I always talk about the story where there was a girl. She was a young, recently college grad working, and she had a DUI online, a mugshot. These sites, they were very nefarious. They'd post your mugshot, and then they want to essentially extort you to try and get them down.
Yeah.
And we were able to do a press release and some content for her. And she called in 3 in the morning, and I picked up the phone at 3 in the morning and took the call. And she said, if my job seizes tomorrow, I'm gonna get fired. And by the time she woke up, we had it fixed. So I always take
Wow.
pride in just going above and beyond for the customer, and I think that translates into success even in today's business.
Awesome. Now, what was the secret? Was it a tech play after? Was it a grit play? Like, what would you say the secret to success in that business was?
A combination of both, right? Knowing the tech, being creative. There was something called host crowding, which was the tech part where Google would only showcase certain results from certain sites, so we could manipulate, so to speak. But one of my gripes and issues with the business was it was always a cat and mouse game where you're always
Mm,
trying to figure out a way to outsmart Google
yeah.
to resolve people's problems. Whereas when I found compliance, I'm like, here's being on the other side of it. You're helping people actually be compliant to deal with all these changing variables. So that was one of the many motivations in looking for potential exit, finding something a little bit cleaner.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time, but it's to me very interesting. Would AI add another layer of complexity to the work that you did? So, in other
Oh
words,
yeah.
today would be a little more complex, right?
Yeah, so the good is AI can make you move a lot faster creating content and things like that. At a recent conference, marketing agent said a lot of clients are starting to get wise and they're like, "You're using AI. Why am I not saving money? Why is my rate still the same and everything you're doing is is costing you a lot less now, right?" So I find that interesting. AI has now AI updates, right? In
Yeah.
Gemini, Google, and ChatGPT. So now there's a whole nother layer of places where you'd have to fix things. So I'm removed from the industry, but I can imagine that would add serious complexity and potential more opportunity, but also just
Yeah.
more difficult in trying to resolve. And it might not be resolvable in many ways. So
Yeah. It's interesting, especially when the now from SEO, it's now GEO, right? As you know, so generative. So it's a whole new strategy on how to be recommended in a positive way on the AI platforms. It's a whole new world, right? It's exciting and scary all at the same time. So
exactly.
let's move to your work. First of all, Captain Compliance. Tell us what you do. Tell me how you came up with the name.
Yeah, definitely. So, when it's something catchy, to remember something, it has to stand out. So, if you have something too similar, you'll blend in. And we and myself, right? I even have a unique name, right? So, I want to be different in every way possible. So, in that sense, I was researching the industry, looking at search terms, looking at what's search, looking at what's out there and landed on the name, saw it, and just fell in love with it instantly. So this is a really interesting name, stands out. The domain was for sale for a reasonable amount of money.
Good.
Nothing crazy. Nothing was being done with it. It was just a park domain, meaning it wasn't active. It was just for sale. Ended up acquiring the domain. And what we do is we help with the surge in privacy litigation. So right now, especially in the US, there are PI attorneys that are going after businesses in mass and they're suing for any sort of privacy violations. So if you think about it, you wouldn't feel comfortable if somebody was looking over your shoulder and watching every little keystroke on your computer. Or they wouldn't like you wouldn't like it they're looking at everything you're typing into your cell phone and every message you're sending, right? So it's no different when you're browsing a website and these companies are going ahead and watching everything you're doing. So what we do is we help businesses comply with these sort of privacy requirements. And what's happening now is if they're not using a software like ours that's installed and integrated correctly, then they're at risk of serious litigation. And I'm talking Aspen Dental just paid 18.7 million in a settlement.
Oh boy.
Another client who spoke with us was about to sign up, took their time, regrettably, because the next thing I'm going to tell you is they got hit with a class action lawsuit for $5 million. So then, yeah, they called right away the next day and said, "Okay, I think we should have signed up." So,
Wow.
yeah, we're really having a serious ROI for clients, protecting them against these privacy suits, and we're kind of becoming that defense. And then we're also helping them being transparent and helping with conversions with their clients because privacy is a competitive advantage, and you can see with Apple and their growth, how much they've grown, and they've
Hmm.
taken privacy very seriously, and consumers really like that. So it's a win-win all around. We're stopping businesses from dealing with these suits. And it's everything from we're providing these cookie consent banners with the notifications
Yeah.
and giving them the ability to consent and opt in or opt out. We also have privacy policy software, so you no longer have to worry about updating your privacy policy. We handle that and updating for all the new privacy laws and legal requirements. And then we also have certain opt-out mechanisms that are required with these new laws. So if you want to opt out or have your information removed from a site, we handle that.
Mm.
And then a lot of insurance companies are also, and law firms are working with us because we have underwriting tools that can showcase what the risk is and help protect against that. So altogether, our goal is to be the largest B2B privacy software company and protecting businesses one at a time. So my ultimate goal is eventually having a few 100,000 to a few million businesses all using our software, all paying us anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000s a month.
So so obviously, even at a few $1,000s a month, the risk reward ROI you talked about is, 20 million versus 24 grand a year. You do the math, right? It kind of
Exactly.
easy, right? And as you know, those law firms are constantly ambulance chasing, right? That's their job, right?
They're not going
And
away.
they're good at
Yep.
it, right? They're very good at it. They start with
They're
Nasdaq listed companies and they work to everybody else, right? So that's really interesting. Um,
Yep.
you said something really cool. So first of all, is it software only or is it software and services, the business?
Software only. I mean, we help to a small degree. When they have questions, we're not going to say, "Oh, we don't provide any," so we can't answer that. But
Yeah,
yeah, we're focused on the software, and then we built up a really nice Rolodex. And actually, this is interesting. So when I was hiring, I posted job ads on everything from the International Association of Privacy Professionals job board to the YPO board
yeah.
to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn actually had the most for the privacy professional jobs.
Hmm.
And I ended up interviewing 180 plus people. And now I have
Whoa.
a Rolodex of privacy professionals all over the world with different specialties. So
Wow.
what happens is like we have somebody now who's dealing with the California suit. So I set them up with an attorney. The privacy attorney was actually like, Jams, the arbitration division for the privacy suit, actually won't let him in. He needs a California attorney. So then I said, "What do you know? I got three right here that I've spoken
Got
to."
it.
And so we're able to help in the services aspect in that part, and then we handle the integration for the client if they let us, which we prefer because we want to make sure that things are integrated and set up correctly, and that's just one of our many key differentiators.
And do you have a sweet spot size business or is all business required to do what you're doing?
I would say right now that it's mid-market, and we're growing into bigger names. We couldn't just come out the gate and get, the American Airlines of the world.
Yeah.
But I would say 10 million to kind of 5 billion range. So like the Fortune 500 or so are currently above where we're at, but we can handle them now and we're starting to grow into that. But mid-market and upper mid-market is kind of the sweet spot. And that's where a lot of these suits are going after, those
Yeah.
kind of mid-market companies that aren't going to fight them tooth and nail and go to court and long
True.
dragged out legal battles. The lawyers know that they want more kind of quicker, faster settlements.
Interesting. So you said multi-billion dollar opportunity is so I love that first of all as a mindset, but second of all, is this going to be scaled with the technology or is this a marketing play as well? Like what's the opportunity here for you?
Combination of everything. So it won't be strictly product led growth, but we have great tools that are built to scale. We're doing 40 some million of people are already interacting with our software a month. Um,
Wow.
and that's being on these different sites. And that number just, and we looked at a graph, we're showing a VC the graph the other day. We pulled it up and it just was a straight, just up and to the right. So
Nice.
that was really cool to see. And it'll continue going that way as we continue to add more and more sites and businesses using our software. Um, but definitely a marketing play. I think all things come down to being good at marketing, and
Yeah.
I do a lot of content marketing. And a really cool flywheel actually effect happened the other day. You'll appreciate this. Somebody attended one of our webinars where we educated and warned about the risk of these privacy lawsuits. They went to their CTO, and the CTO said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, sure, I got it. I'll fix it." Thought they fixed it, but didn't. Then they got hit with one of these privacy suits. They looked up the information about the privacy suit, who shows up number one in search results. We do. And
Ah,
then she
love it.
said, "Oh, I think this is a sign." So I got a personal, they looked me up on, reached out and said, I think we need your help. Like, here's the background. And I said, we would love to help. So, so that's starting to happen. So a little bit of that and just continuing doing that, being more aggressive, conferences and webinars. The biggest player in our space is doing about 505 million in revenue right now.
Okay.
So, so we have a pretty substantial amount that we can grow if we were just trying to catch to what the current leader is at. Um, and they said a lot of their initial growth came from conferences. So that's just one of many things that are on our roadmap. And we're just thinking of it like this. We're just incrementally improving every single day, both our product and our business. And
Hmm.
it's just starting to compound. If we just continue doing this day over day, week over week, month over month, year over year, like we'll end up in a really strong, solid position if we come back and had this same interview in 3 years. Things should be very, very good.
And are you looking to take investment, or is it going to be all you guys bootstrapping it and handling it that way?
Yeah, so we presented at Venture Atlanta. It was the biggest venture capital conference on the East Coast. Pitched out of 90 some companies, and we're the winner.
Oh,
I
awesome.
I also came out and, like I said, I do things a little different, right? So everybody wears a suit and tie. I was wearing my captain shirt and my old school Nike shoes, and came out and just made kind of a splash and had. I was the only speech that got a little bit of a chuckle and a laugh. And then in the end, they put up on the board and winners, and at the top was Captain Compliance listed. And I said,
Love
that's
it.
pretty cool. So now we're talking to some VCs and everything.
Yeah.
Um, Part of me says, was to bootstrap, and then I spoke with the VC very early on, and he said, if you want to get there faster, he's like, take the money. And now I'm seeing like that's the path to get there because even though I had nice exit, we're still limited on some of the things that we can do. And I see now that we have a fleshed out product that we're onboarding new clients every week that
Yeah.
now we're ready to pour fuel in the fire and really go for it.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't ever built a business of that size, but my sense is to get to the B word, it's hard to do organically, isn't it?
It's hard in time, right?
Yeah.
I think it can be done if you have patience and you have a lot of time and you're in the right business, but it takes a lot of time, a lot of reinvestment of
Yeah.
capital. But it can get there if it's the right industry. And some industries just aren't capable of ever getting there, right? But
Yeah.
it definitely helps if you're going for the B word.
How important is speed versus perfection in your world?
Oof. I'd love to have both, but you're gonna move fast. You're gonna screw up on some things, and we definitely have. But having good guardrails and things in place are really important. And that's really the one of the best pieces of advice is like having guardrails in place, right?
Mm.
Move fast. Don't be afraid that things might get screwed up, but just keep innovating and keep going. There's some people who only want to release something when it's perfect. And in the beginning, um, we didn't start onboarding clients till late last year. And one of the reasons was I was like, I wanted to wait till we had a more fleshed out product. Then I said, all right, I don't want to wait anymore. Let's just start doing it and start
Good.
getting feedback and things like that. And it's good to get that feedback. And some clients will be really good and give you a ton of feedback. And others are in our world are very much set it and forget it. And we
Yeah.
don't hear a peep from them or they don't even know what's going on.
I mean, there's nothing like you can have all the thesis in the world, but until you're applying it to a customer with real world stuff, those are the real lessons, aren't they?
That's where the real lessons come from, right? And I went through this crazy exercise of trying to dial in and figure out pricing. And I spoke to a lot
Mm.
of mutual contacts of ours, spoke to other successful SaaS companies and founders who have had successful exits. And ultimately, this just came down to the customer will tell you where the price is. Let
Yeah.
the market elasticity figure it out. And that's ultimately the answer. So that was another piece of advice anybody listening is, let the market figure out your price. You can come up with any sort of thesis, doesn't mean it'll be right.
You know, it's so true. And even in our world in leadership branding, we're kind of creating a new category and productizing what we do. And it's all over the map. Like the pricing is just crazy. So you've got to say, at least for us, was pick the right customer who has that mega problem, then price doesn't become an issue because they're
Mhm.
solving a problem as you are. If you're solving a $20 million problem, like
Mhm.
$2,000 a month is kind of a joke,
Yeah,
because they
definitely.
could do that for 20 years and still not reach the problem. So even you might even say, well, that's kind of low because they're paying more than that in insurance, right?
Hmm.
In business insurance. So those are interesting things that you could even discover, in year two and three that, you know what, 2 grand a month, it should be four. Like, who knows,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
The nature of the problem. It's interesting stuff. I'd love to close on a little bit of YPO. How long have you been in our amazing organization in YPO?
Been there since 2021.
Awesome.
Uh, all the time as I continue to meet new members and connect, I always get more and more inspired by it. In fact, was listening to a gentleman named Todd Graves on a podcast the other day, and he founded a company called Raising Cane's, one of the most successful.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know it very well. Yeah.
yeah. And he mentioned something about like a YPO forum in there. And I was like, wait a second. I was like, he's in YPO. I
He's
was
in
like, that's
YPO.
cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
So
is
some of the
cool.
most successful people in the entire world are part of the organization. The networking contacts is great. Forum, obviously, extremely important in the ideas and concepts you get to bounce between your network. It's just great, and then it's led to opportunities too. I found our CTO and
Wow.
co-founder is through the job board. Timing was just lining up, and yeah, there's so many great people there. So and I thank my friend Brian, who we were skiing in Park City and during COVID. Um, and in early 2021, and he kept talking, oh, I'm going to ski with these guys, YPO this, YPO that. And I'm like, what is this thing you keep talking? And he's like, you're entrepreneurial. He's like, you should check it out. He's like, between all your, different businesses, you could definitely qualify. And that was my intro to it. But I will say our chapter has gone through a nice transformation.
Yeah.
So I definitely had more of a lifestyle business in the end with the Reputation Company. And we're a regional chapter.
Yeah.
And what happened was we had an event at the Montage Palmetto Bluff in Hilton Head area, and only two of us actually signed up to go. And
Mm.
and it was coming out of COVID. So
Yeah.
now we have events and we're getting 120 people showing up. So it's interesting seeing the transformation because at first I was like, I don't understand. Like, what am I paying for? What am I getting? Like,
Yeah.
there's events nobody shows up for. So it's really grown. And then, like anything, I have a deep curiosity for things. Glad to help others, and it's come back to really help as well as when I have asked and other things like that. So it's a great organization, and I meet great people like you all the time.
That was the cool thing. We met on a call where people you kind of share their business opportunities and we connected there and are doing the podcast today and I know we'll have further conversations as we're both growing our businesses for the good of mankind. So it's kind of fun. Rich, this
There
was
you go.
great, man. Is there anything you would want to share before we wrap up today that we missed?
Connect with me on LinkedIn. Maybe on the show notes, just drop a link, and
Dude,
yeah, that's all. Just I guess having grit, determination, and curiosity are some of the keys that I found in success. But find what works for you.
I love it. Well, Captain, my captain. Thank you very much for this. I appreciate it, and we will be chatting soon, my friend.
Thank you.
Bye bye.